Reverend Green, can you please pray for us? Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I got thrown by this whole thing. Let's welcome and greet our Heavenly Parent and true parents. We have the picture. Chanjin Champumanamke Kyangbe. Paro. And for our family pledge, we have a recording from Pastor Milhan Stevens.
가정 맹세 1. 한여극 주인 우리 가정은 참사랑을 중심하고 본향 땅을 찾아 본연의 창조 이상인 지상 천국과 천상 천국을 창건할 것을 맹세하나이다. 2. 천여극 주인 우리 가정은 참사랑을 중심하고 하늘 부모님과 참 부모님을 모시어 천주의 대표적 가정이 되며 중심적 가정이 되어 가정에서는 효자, 국가에서는 중심, 세계에서는 성인, 천주에서는 성자의 가정의 도리를 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다. 3. 천여국 주인 우리 가정은 참사랑을 중심하고 4대 심정권과 3대 왕권과皇族권을 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다. 4. 천여국 주인 우리 가정은 참사랑을 중심하고 하늘 부모님의 창조 이상인 천주대 가족을 형성하여 자유와 평화와 통일과 행복의 세계를 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다. 5. 천여국 주인 우리 가정은 참사랑을 중심하고 매일 주체적 천상세계와 대상적 지상세계의 통일을 향해 전진적 발전을 촉진화할 것을 맹세하나이다. 6. 천여국 주인 우리 가정은 참사랑을 중심하고 하늘 부모님과 참 부모님의 대신 가정으로서 천운을 움직이는 가정이 되어 하늘의 축복을 주변에 연결시키는 가정을 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다. 7. 천여국 주인 우리 가정은 참사랑을 중심하고 본연의 혈통과 연결된 위하는 생활을 통하여 심정문화 세계를 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다. 8. 천여국 주인 우리 가정은 참사랑을 중심하고 천여국 시대를 맞이하여 절대신앙, 절대사랑, 절대복종으로 신인의 일체 이상을 이루어 지상천국과 천상천국의 해방권과 석방권을 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다.
Thank you, Pastor Milhan. Now for our opening prayer, can I please invite Reverend Desmond Green to pray for us today?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Seidel.
Oh, nice to see you outside.
Wow. I'm back to my old ways, my winning ways.
Good.
Please join me in prayer. A loving Heavenly Parent, true parents of heaven, earth, and all of humankind, thank you so much for this glorious morning. We wake up this morning with love on our mind, your love, divine love, the love that you thought about at the outset of creation, that motivated you to create men and women and all things. We are thankful that because of that love, we have come together this morning to partake of it and to at the same time return joy and happiness to you for all the wonderful things you have done to make our lives sublime. We think of our true mother at this time and all the activities that are taking place around us. But nevertheless, we are all steadfast. Our commitment to building your kingdom of heaven and earth is absolute. And as we join our hearts together on this glorious morning amidst the beauty of the natural world, where squirrels and birds darting in and out of trees, the sounds of the natural world stimulates us and brings us into an understanding of your love, because the natural world is a textbook of your creativity. And the purpose of all this is for the sake of men and women. So, Heavenly Parent, we thank you, and we pray that no matter what changes that are taking place around us, we can be steadfast, centering on your true love. So please be the very core of this morning's meeting, and let each brother and each sister have a moment as never before, a divine moment with you and with one another. We want to make that 90-degree angle, vertically and horizontally, and reside there so that it can be the meeting point between God and man. Hear our prayers this morning and bless us all as I make this report in the names of all the blessed Central families represented here, and in my own name, Desmond and Beryl Green and Joel Green of the Green Blessed Central family. I make this report adieu.
Adieu. Thank you, Reverend Green.
You're welcome.
Now, brothers and sisters, let's take a few moments to share our gratitudes. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. I'm gonna have to practice saying Chunshim Wan. I'm gonna have to say it over and over and over 1,000 times so I can pronounce it correctly when the time comes. Because it's a tongue-tied Chunshim Wan. Okay. So can I please call on Henry and Mimi Yurukawa to share with us?
This morning, I was so grateful Catherine's bright spirit, and I really envy. But when I meet Catherine in the breakout session, and I found out, and she talked about both Tobago, really great, grateful, because the true father and true mother was hungry so many days, many years, and of course, but she was thinking about especially true mother and true father, those difficult time, and she really grateful for that this bagel was so delicious. And I'm so, when I heard her appreciation, really, thinking about true parent, and even though the food really appreciating, and that made her spirit brighter. And I was so grateful for her and the breakout session.
Okay. I'm grateful all the sisters who have the variety of nationality and variety of race, and because of this is possible, only possible through the divine principle and through true parents love, true love. And I would really appreciate true father. I recently read gospel how cruelly Japanese tortured father. And the father said he already knows the cruelty of Japan, but just in book. But after he went to the prison, Japanese prison, he really realized how cruelty of Japanese. And he really, I'm really sorry. And also, if the Japanese, true father forgive us and who gave us the blessing. This I will reflect in my life. I'm already 72 years. If I couldn't meet true parents, it's so miserable. How so miserable? So I'm so appreciate. Also, I have eternal debt to parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Henry and Mimi-san. Well, we're grateful for you. We're grateful to have you. God bless you both. We're so happy. You were with the Manhattan Family Church for so many years, and we love you and we're grateful to you. So thank you. Okay, brothers and sisters, now it's time for our Gospel reading. We're reading The Mother of Peace, True Mother's autobiography, and it's being led by Reverend Sebastian Waymer.
Welcome to Mother of Peace, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. A memoir by Hak Jahan Moon, a production of the Washington Times Global Media Group, narrated by Alison Hiroto. As the 1970s approached, it still was a turbulent time for the world. North and South Korean discord threatened to flare up into another war, and the international situation was volatile. Communism was expanding across the globe on many fronts. Knowing the inhumane brutality of communist governments, from our personal experience, my husband and I launched a very successful educational initiative called Victory Over Communism, VOC. Ours was the only voice in the world to clearly explain the fallacies of its materialistic and atheistic theory while offering a God-centered counter-proposal. VOC strengthened the resolve and understanding of South Koreans, and it had a huge impact soon after in Japan, turning back its far left-wing factions through peaceful means. At that critical moment, my husband and I once again urged our members, especially the women, to take action. Our Heavenly Parent knows the power of women. Our movement did not truly begin until our couple's holy wedding, because we are a family movement, and it takes a husband and wife to create a family. My husband is the world's foremost champion of women as the moral leaders of the family and society. With this conviction, we called Korean blessed wives to sacrifice their family life for a time and, as missionaries, go to the streets, to the halls of government, to the churches and temples, and from house to house, to provide education, empower the people, and multiply the patriotic spirit. The wives responded. Each entrusted their young children, and sometimes ill elderly parents, to their husband's care, and set out. The mother is the center of the family, and when she is not home, even for a day or two, the family suffers. Our wives and mothers went out, not for a day or two, but for 3 years. For every father who had to cradle and feed a child begging for his mother's milk, a mother on mission was squeezing milk out of her swollen breasts and weeping. It was almost like Jesus' 3 years of public ministry, or my husband's 3 years in a North Korean labor camp. Wives who were pregnant when going out would return to give birth, and after 100 days, go back to their mission field. After the 3 years, when the mothers returned, their youngest children didn't recognize them and even resisted them. Such is the incredible sacrifice of heart offered to our Heavenly Parent for the restoration of the world. When a woman has a baby, she experiences the pain of childbirth. Despite this, the midwife's job is to encourage her to push more. Like midwives giving birth to a new world, my husband and I pushed our unification family members. Historically, every time danger appeared, the Korean people, farmers, and loyal patriots defended their homes and their nation. With that spirit, our members rose and defended their homes and nation against communism. My husband counseled these courageous women. The people do not understand unification now, but if the 30 million people of Korea join together with the Unification Church, this nation and these people will not perish. The blessed wives buried their pain in their hearts, for they knew that their mission was for the sake of the nation. In hindsight, their work has borne great fruit and can only be considered the most praiseworthy act of patriotism. Thus far, it has been hidden from view in our nation's history, but one day it will be revealed. As the Unification Church spread to other countries, blessed wives around the world followed the example of the early Korean wives and their families. Thus, this brilliant chapter has been written in the history not just of Korea, but of all nations. All blessed wives stand on this foundation and are carrying on this tradition. It is a story of women sacrificing to preserve the nation and world. One of its fruits appeared 20 years later in our meeting with Mikhail Gorbachev, then President of the Soviet Union. This opened the door to teach the young people of the former Soviet Union our God-centered worldview, the democratic spirit and ethical values, which contributed to the reconciliation of East and West and the downfall of communism. Another fruit was our trip to North Korea in 1991, when we met North Korean leader Kim Il-sung. Our harrowing but thoroughly triumphant visit opened the way for dialogue between North and South Korea and prepared a foothold for our work there. My last moment on Earth is approaching. The foundation for our breakthroughs in the Kremlin and North Korea also includes the selfless work of European members. One day in the early 1980s, we received a one-page letter from one of them. It concluded with heart-rending words. My last moment on Earth is approaching. This is the last greeting I give you here on Earth. I will meet you in the spirit world. Please live a long and healthy life. This young man was behind the Iron Curtain in a communist prison, and this was his final letter, written just before his execution. The instant I read it, my body stiffened, as if my blood had turned cold and blue. My tears froze. I couldn't say anything. I felt like the fabled woman, Mang Buk-seok, who died and turned to stone. I just stood there. My husband and I had to quietly, secretly, hold such beloved people in our hearts. As the true parents of all people, our path, with theirs, was perilous and desperate. Unable to talk with anyone about such things, we could only weep inside and proceed with broken hearts. For many years in Korea, whenever our members gathered, sooner or later, a lively discussion would take place about our movement strategy. We must turn our eyes to the wider world now, someone would say. Another would retort, isn't it too early? We don't even have a church building here in Korea. And a third would join the fray. Okay, so we build an attractive building, but if it's only for Korea, will God like it? Of course, my husband and I were well aware of the issues and knew that both evangelizing internationally and building a strong church in Korea were important. But we steadfastly chose the world over Korea. And as a result, the appearance of our first churches remained shabby. Up until the 1980s, we could not present to the nation even a single decent church building. Our members might have wished to have a place where they could gather with guests and comfortably hold services, but it was not to be. Small A-frame structures with green roofs were all we had. In the public square as well, people ridiculed us, asking why we and our members kept talking about restoring the world when we didn't even have a decent church building. From a humanistic perspective, they had a point. But they did not know the principle. Our church was created for a higher purpose, and we put working for humanity and the world first. The salvation of the world took precedence over our task in Korea. In 1958, our first missionary crossed the sea to Japan, and the next year, a few trusted members pioneered missions in the United States. Given the impoverished state of our Korean church, it was almost unthinkable to start foreign missions in Japan and the United States. But our purpose went beyond being solely a Korean group. To bolster these budding foreign missions, Father Moon undertook a 10-month world tour in 1965. The course included a period where he drove with a few followers to every state in the continental United States to consecrate prayer sites that we call holy grounds in each. He met our missionaries and their young members in the United States, Europe, and other countries, and met prominent public figures, including former U.S. President Dwight Eisenhower. On this momentum, the flow of unification missionaries into Europe, the Middle East, and South America began to rise. Supporting the organization and coordination of all these missions made conditions arduous, both in the mission field and in Korea, and sometimes Korean members would shake their heads and say, things are getting worse. But in the 1970s, the divine principle of the Unification Church spread through the world. Many tens of thousands of young people heard the lectures and left their old lives to dedicate themselves to God's providence. It wasn't long before the countries of the world, as though one with accord, gathered their energy to oppose us. But our movement was like a roly-poly toy. The persecution hit us, and we bounced back. It hit us again, and we bounced back again, even stronger.
Thank you, true mother. Thank you, true parents, for these precious memories and words and the history that lies behind our movement all over the world now, in the 50s and 60s and now 70s, our true mother is talking about. So I'd like to reflect briefly on the reading, and just so grateful for true mother bring this up in her memoir. And the 1970s was a very volatile time, as she says there, that North and South Korea's discord threatened to flare up. And some of our brothers and sisters here in this group were there in 1975 when two parents called for the Yoido Island rally, which we read about also earlier in this month or last month. And two parents founded the Victory Over Communism, which is an organization to explain clearly the fallacies of the materialistic and atheistic theory. Actually, in another quote, Father calls it a satanic religion, a materialistic and atheistic religion. It's really the qualities and all the characteristics of a religion. And then not only explain all the fallacies, which many people nowadays, they can say, yeah, this is the way. Look at that. Look here. How terrible, how terrible. But nobody really has a counter proposal upon which we can build something better. The American dream is really the foundation for that, which is quote unquote the American dream, is a God-centered nation. But a lot of people wouldn't know how to explain that. They have this and that and the other. Melting pot, that's wonderful. And people coming from all over the world for freedom, yes. But what is really God's view about this world, and what does he want to accomplish beyond the fallacy of communism? So one thing that I want to mention on my own part here is that this is really so important that we understand, and then also we understand the counter proposal, which is basically the divine principle and all what two parents said ever. So, so at this critical moment, who was the pioneer, or was the cutting edge, or the spear with which to make this movement, the Victory Over Communism movement work or effort? It is the women, the mothers, to take action. So two parents asked the women, the mothers, to activate and to leave their families, even their newborn children, or if they had children, they would go to give birth, and then they stay 100 days at home, but then they go out again and go through incredible difficulties themselves, but also their children. As we know, some of our second gen, they are suffering from the post-traumatic stress disorder that was inflicted upon them without realizing what their parents were doing, what their mothers were doing. So we need to really love and embrace and heal those wounds that were caused by this incredible sacrifice that was necessary to defeat or to stop communism, at least in its track. So the women were going out as moral leaders of the family and society, to the streets, to halls of government, churches and temples, and house to house, and to empower people with a patriotic spirit. Always in this case in Korea, focused on the unification of North and South Korea, not on the terms of the Chuche ideology. Chuche stands for self-reliance, which means you don't need God, you just rely on yourself. But true parents know that this is not possible to bring about unification or anything good without God at the center. So this is what these mothers and women did. And here again, as I mentioned yesterday, and Ayako Hallett said in the breakout room, the mother is the center of the family. So true, and the true mother is that center, not only of our unification family, but for the whole world. So this is something to be watched. Once you, as true mother has done, and all these women have done, and many times, as true father said at our matching time in 1979, just from the start, he said to the brothers, know that one thing, right from the start, without saying anything, the sisters, the mothers have a double carry, they carry the double load. Their weight and their burden is double the size of yours. So I just want to applaud all the mothers and the women here on the call, naturally, without realizing you already carrying double the load. And it looks like, yeah, you're the quote unquote weaker sex, but it's not, it has to do with that. It has to do with the heart, with the emotion, with the love, that you're carrying a very, very heavy load. So to mother and to father asked those women to go out for 3 years, not just 3 months or 3 weeks, but 3 years. And so mother compares this to the 3 years of Jesus' public ministry and father's time in North Korean labor camp. So it's an incredible sacrifice of heart offered to our Heavenly Parent as a condition, as Dr. Young would say, sincere devotion will move heaven, and definitely it did move. And I'm very glad that I didn't know the ins and outs in 1975, because the North was just about to attack Korea. And we made this true parents call for this Yoido Island rally to stop. It's showing that Korea is not alone. It will rally international support again with all the the global team members coming from all around the world, thousands of them, to mobilize the Korean people. So again, mother is stressing here that people do not understand unification now. If the 30 billion people of Korea join together with the unification church, then the nation and its people will not perish. And she also includes the unification of North and South Korea. So there's a deep pain that's buried deep in the hearts of these blessed wives. And but one day this secret and painful history will have to be revealed and properly understood, also to help their children and grandchildren to be liberated from this scar, from this wound, this difficult sacrifice that they have gone through. So the story of women sacrificing to preserve the nation, the world, is really the key. And we know that women have not been in the forefront being applauded for doing this and the other. It's always the men who have given their lives in the various different situations to protect a nation or to protect a particular part of the world, as we know from World War I and World War II. But it is the women behind the scene. And then Chumada says that 20 years later, these sacrifices have then borne fruit, with a meeting with Mikhail Gorbachev and the Raisa Gorbachev, who really loved the little angels. And really, Mikhail Gorbachev was really taken by True Mother. I think he fell in love with her. There's no competition with True Father, but how can he not fall in love with True Mother as a man? She's so beautiful, and as Father said, with unfathomable inner beauty. We all have external beauty or handsomeness for a while, but the inner beauty can just continue to grow, and we can see that in True Mother now. And then the next year, in 1991, two parents were able to meet with Kim Il-sung, which then opened up a great way of dialogue between the North and South Korea. At that time, it was illegal to meet and go to North Korea, but two parents somehow were able to, with the help of brothers and sisters, with Colonel Park and Antonio Betancourt, they were able to pull this off, to bring this meeting with Kim Il-sung. And we're still getting True Mother's birthday celebration, Father Songwhat's anniversary. We're getting a big bouquet of flowers from Kim Jong-un every year. I don't know if you remember seeing that last time. And so there has been a lot of story behind that. And again, the battle against communism is not over. As Marxism is well alive. It's not somebody's ideology or philosophy. It's actually a satanic inspired, diabolic religious faith that has been trying to take over this world and hold on to it. So many members in Europe had to leave officially the church. I remember in Austria, I was there, and somebody said, oh yeah, this person had to leave the church. And I wondered why. And I was thankful not to know more about it, that they had to officially renounce the church, sign a paper and all that, so that it could go behind the Iron Curtain and then missionize there. And this one brother wrote a letter to two parents: I will meet you in the spirit world. Please live long and a healthy life. So there's quite a few that have gone to the behind the Iron Curtain, to Czechoslovakia or to Hungary or to the Soviet Union, and gave their lives there. That is, I remember what some of our brothers and sisters did, and it's just amazing how they could do that. Special, very, very special people. So this young man was behind the Iron Curtain in Thomas prison, and just ready to be executed. So two mothers describes that's the leader who has ultimately two mother and two father asked them to go. It's all their responsibility. They feel responsible for this. My blood had turned cold and blue. My tears froze. I couldn't say anything. I just felt like the fabled woman, Mang Bo Suk, turned to stone. I just stood there. So this is even more serious in a way than the person dying, because then two parents have to live with that quietly, secretly, and not tell anybody, because it would blow people away, and people wouldn't want to join our movement if we let them know that this is what we're doing. So I wouldn't have necessarily been able to join. If I would have found out, I'd have to go behind the Iron Curtain. So two parents had to do that quietly and hold these people and beloved people in their hearts. Weep inside and then proceed with the broken hearts of knowing that this person sacrificed because two parents asked them to. So then the issue came again in Korea. What am I going to do to make the church in Korea strong, or make it go to the world and missionize the world? Well, two parents always chose the world, the public, before the private. The world and Korea are like public and private. And as a result, our appearances of the first churches were really shabby. I remember seeing one of those small A-frame structures, and I was really taken aback. This is the Unification Church of Korea? Wow. I'm glad I didn't ask anymore, because this is a real shocker for me. People also would ridiculed our members and say, you don't even have a decent church building. And Mother acknowledges that and said, you have a point there, but you don't know what we're doing. We are working for the salvation of the world. It takes precedent. The public always must be in the center of things, and the private activities must take the peripheral position. So the 1958 Papa Che, after several trials, he smuggled himself in to Japan, got imprisoned, and then escaped prison so that he could go witnessing. Amazing story. And then that following year, members of the Korean family went to the United States. Dr. Young Kim, Dr. David S. Kim, Colonel Park, Papa Che, and also came from Japan. Dr. Oni Sulim Durst came to the United States to missionize the United States. And from there, especially from California, from Berkeley, missionaries were sent out to Europe. Peter Koch and Paul Werner, Martin Porter, Dennis and Doris Orm, and the Vahayans, if I'm correct, Vera, is that correct? The Vahayans? Yeah. And so this is what happened, and it started small with one person, and the stories are incredible. Real gigantic, heroic stories of how they started out. And then two father, then after that, went to do his first world tour alone, and 1965 establishing holy grounds all around the world, including the United States. And one of our elders here, Ernie Stewart, was one of the drivers. Mrs. Stewart is still alive in Ithaca, Dr. Therese Stewart. I hope she sometimes can come on our morning devotion, or now it's going to call the prayer vigil. Anyway, to drive father from this place and that place. And it was a very interesting story. If you want to, Mrs. Stewart has in the memoir, she mentioned that in there, establishing this holy grounds, but not only establishing holy grounds, but father would want to meet the most prominent public figures, which he did. I remember he must have met 10 senators or something like that, including U.S. President Dwight Eisenhower, in which he explained, just as a footnote, that communism will go down. He said that straight to Eisenhower, but he said it will rise again with the help of Islam. So we're seeing that right now, this unholy alliance between Russia and Iran and China. They're all getting together. And we're having some real headaches coming our way. So again, the work in the field was very, very difficult, unimaginably difficult. And I say this as a Westerner, as an Austrian and German, the level of sacrifice that both Korean and Japanese brothers and sisters accomplished during those days are just unimaginably heroic. So I just want to applaud them and thank them for doing that, because we wouldn't be here without their sacrifice. So the True Parents' Choice of the World allowed the divine principle to spread all across the world through the missionaries in 1975, coming from the United States to 120 countries, and then immediately everywhere, from both the conservatives and the liberals, from the left and the right. In North Korea was the same thing. The communists and the established churches were opposing father. It's true everywhere in the world. The movement was facing opposition, and yet when you go and face persecution, actually, you actually get energy for some reason. It's a roly-poly event, a roly-poly toy. It's like you push it down and it bounces back up again. So this is our movement, and this is the truth for all religious movements. Once they get persecuted, they get even stronger after that. Thank you for allowing me to share my reflection. God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend Sebastian. Okay, brothers and sisters, let's take a few moments to share our reflections. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a good sharing. Yuriko-san and Hayo-chan, would you like to please share with us?
So, my reflection is in the Gospel reading, I learned that our movement was persecuted and it was like a roly-poly. And when it was like the roly-poly, we got held back because we got persecuted.
Yes. This time is so many happen to the mother's memoirs. That part is very careful. Even the parents as mother, so many members join, and after that, so many persecution and sacrifice, and we are growing up there and expanding the movement. So very artistic. This part of this morning to two mothers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you both. Okay, brothers and sisters, now it's our special time and we have our 7 minutes unison prayer. So let's begin. Shija. Most beloved Heavenly Parent.
Loving Heavenly Parent, thank you so much for allowing me to share with my brothers and sisters this moment of morning devotion that transform one prayer vigil and pray for each other, pray for true mother first of all, and for to Father in the spirit world, and for Yojanim in the spirit world, and Hongjanim in the spirit world, Devanim in the spirit world. We pray for their spirit to come down and help us realize more deeply how precious this moment is in history, centering our true mother, who is our mother, is like a diamond, who is also comforting us. And the parents, I want to thank you. Pray that we can have, as Reverend Desmond said in his prayer, absolute faith, absolute conviction. But in our pledge it says absolute obedience. That your mother has gained the authority to demand obedience, absolute obedience. Yes, pray that we can really unite with her and accomplish what she wants us to accomplish. Not for her, for our sake, for our own future, for our own development, our own spiritual growth. Not even that. This is the sake of helping all our brothers and sisters who are affected by this incredible virus of Marxism, diabolic, atheistic, materialistic religion, Father. All the way to the core of their blood, where they don't know if they're men or women, the Marxist genderism, Father. Pray that we can be strong, that the communists in our faith drive out these angels, these principalities and powers, fallen archangels, angels, Father, that are trying to hold on to mankind, the sons and daughters to the family of God. We can help us to push back, push them down into a bottomless pit, where they have no choice but to say, what do you want me to do? But it's trying to pray that we can help our brothers and sisters with clarity, with understanding the nature of communism, at the same time also the nature of the principle of creation, the fall of man, the restoration of the second coming. What does it all mean? Heavenly Parents, and share this the most direct way by having people read the words of our true parents directed themselves, Father. Pray gratitude for Jean Gomez, who strongly explains about the history, of difficult history that you had to go through, coming here from Guyana, Father, for John Watson, Father, for Vera, my sister, and Ichinoi-san, and working so hard, Father, to achieve the tribe Messiah role, to take care of her tribe. Father, for Jürgen and Yakuhela, for their steadfast home church activity in Holland, for Yomiko, who is working in the Harlem Center. My husband helping her from the spirit world. Pray that the vitality element that she produces can give her husband strength to help our two Father and all the saints and sages in the spirit world.
all the members of the
Push back the demonic world there. Pray for Mr. Lutz, Thomas Lutz in the spirit world. And pray for him to also gain vitality, Palm, wife and grandchildren, children and grandchildren. Pray, Father, for Desmond and Merrill and Joel Green, and for Joel's health especially. He's young, again, total health, not just partial health, but really total healing. Father, I pray that he can receive total healing in every aspect, and that he can stand on his parents' shoulders and do the work with them for the Korean peace. Pray for Amini, Yukama, and Henry, as they have sacrificed and have given their everything, Father, including sacrificing and taking care of the children, as Henry did while his wife was out on the mission field. Allison in the Philippines really appreciate her husband, at the same time her husband really appreciating her, her steadfast faith, and their son to really come around to accomplish his responsibility. And for Genty Corey, my assistant pastor Joshua Gordakowski, right now for the state of New York, even though this might change. Nevertheless, I pray for him to stand strong, to use his knowledge, his intellect, and his willpower and his health, especially to follow his heart. Pray for the Wallington family, Manuel and Kumi Wallington, for the Fuzes, for the Satos, for the Halls, the great Hall family, Amanda, and Robert, and all the great people down in the New York City area, Harlem or the Bronx or in Albany, Father, for the Miles family, Local Sons family, Calvin family, for Onsak's family, the Nina Shibuya family. Pray, Father, for each one of those brothers and sisters to take heart, to keep the hope going, Father. For Keiko and Robert White, for Henry and Ray Bath, May, for Masako Ao and her husband, who needs 24/7 care. Pray that we can support each other, for Dr. Sanborn, Father, for Miahan, Sayaka-san, the family in Japan right now, Yumiko, Yumiko, Dunkley, and Damien, that they can really unite and be absolute about it, even though maybe in the beginning it's very difficult for him to get us moving the way that he's motivated now through Mother. But for Nakimi, his chief of staff, same thing, Father, has now clear mission of what to do, but they do not be dissuaded by whatever winds are blowing against them. Finally, pray also, Father, for all the brothers and sisters who are in position of elders or leading, that we can understand this is the time of heavenly tribes, not satanic tribes, but we are called to save our own tribes, Heavenly Parents. We have this responsibility.
Thank you, everyone. We had a good prayer. Before we go, do we have any announcements today? Okay, then. I just want to say I hope you all have a wonderful day. Happy Saturday. Reverend Sebastian, good job. Good job.
Thank you. Mother Kathleen. I call you, instead of doctor, I call you Mother Kathleen. How's that?
Sound like a nun.
Even the nuns get blessed nowadays.
I used to tell my friends outside of the church, I used to say, I'm a unification nun, N-O-N-E. We don't drink, we don't smoke, we don't have premarital sex. None.
Well, that's it. None of these, none of the above. we continue anyway. Yeah.
That's right.
Well, God bless you. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. We really appreciate it. So have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Joshua.
Happy Saturday.
Have a good day. Thank you.